right, so budgeting. Welcome. This is going to be a great session. We're so excited to have Peter here. Uh, can you believe today being the 25th of January, 24 days ago, we were celebrating Happy New Year. To me, that time just went by so quickly. So whether you're a New Year's resolution kind of person or not, we've had 24 days in and this is why I don't do New Year's resolutions. I work on a word for the year, and this year I chose focus. And so this allows me to hone in and focus on certain topics, certain situations that need my attention, and I can break off little pieces and feel like I've accomplished something. So one big area of focus for me is a budget. I'm sure all of you feel the same way, that times are changing, things are changing. The budget we've been using isn't working, and maybe we don't even have a budget, and we need to get that going. So I like to think of our budget as a living, breathing document. It's going to be always changing. You're always going to need to update it. And so just getting the basics of what is a budget, how do we follow it, and of course, Peter's title, A Budget Worth Following. Amazing, absolutely love that title. Will help us to just take that little bit of stress off of our shoulders, see where our finances are, see where we're going, and give us a clear roadmap into our financial future. So also wanted to mention that we do have, as Peter was saying, we do have our helpline. You are welcome to fill out a helpline request if you would like, a little bit more personalized help with your budget. We are always here for you. I will put that link in the chat in just a minute. And additionally, we are going to be looking into doing some workshops in the future. So we're so excited to be able to announce that. Once that gets going, you guys will be the first ones invited for signing up for this wonderful webinar. But we're so excited to present Peter. So without further ado, I'm going to turn everything over to Peter. And again, if you want to ask a question, feel free to raise your hand using the little chat feature to do that, or you can type your question in the chat. So thank you so much, Peter. Take it away. We're ready to learn.
Well, thank you very much, Tracy, and I thank Savvy Ladies for having me. I have a little bit about myself. I am a financial planner, registered investment advisor in New York. I have been in the financial field for, well, let's just say in excess of 20 years now. I carry 5 designations, and I'll go into those in a moment. But really, of all the clients that I've had over the years, I would say, I don't like absolutes, but almost every one of them, I've done a budget. Now we're going to go into why you should have a budget and how to prepare it, and also many of the reasons why they fail. And we'll go into that. And I consider a budget as a keystone. Every one of my clients, I do a budget every year. Every business, that person that I deal with, we do a budget every year, and it's a blueprint and it's a guide to where we want to go and how to get there. As a financial planner, most of the people I deal with get very tired of me asking the word how, and it comes down to, where do you want to go and how do you want to get there? And the real question is, how do you get there? But budgeting can be really, a lot of people take it as a negative word. We're going to take that negative and try to make it a positive, and you'll see that in a couple minutes. So I'm from Crystal Brook Advisors. I am the owner, managing partner, head of Crystal Brook Advisors, and that is my company. And it's been probably at least 7 years now we've been going. I want to say thank you to Tracy, but also Savvy Ladies. I've been a volunteer at Savvy Ladies for a number of years. I think they do some really good work. They have gotten very much into not only answering questions, but doing a great amount of pro bono financial help for people. I think it's a great mission, and I fully support the mission. This is a little about me. I got lots of letters. I'm a certified financial planner. I got a chartered financial consultant, certified a life underwriter, which is the insurance side, and an enrolled agent, which is the IRS for taxes, designation for the IRS and taxes. I'm also a certified senior advisor, which is a designation for people that are usually dealing with the older and aging problems with people. So with that, I've done some writing, and you can see some of those places, but let me get into the heart of why we're here. And what is a budget? I'm going to start with the very basics of what, and then build up to how do we do it and what it gets included, just so everyone kind of is on the same page. And really, a lot of the fear over doing budget is terminology. Oh, I've never done it. My parents never talked money in front of the kids. So I had to learn all this, and I've earned every scar I've gotten over the years, and I've got a lot of them. But what it is you just have to learn the language of the financial industry. And it may be scary, but I find my one guiding principle is knowledge conquers fear. And if you have the knowledge and just take the first step, start slowly, and as soon as you get used to it, you get much better at it. But my thought on a budget, it's got to be a written plan that includes all that income and the expenses and all that stuff that we have. But it really has to be in writing. And I learned a long time ago, if your budget is not written somewhere where you can reference it, I call what you have a wish. It's not a plan. I'm a planner. I went out of my way to become a planner because I think that's the foundation of every financial decision that we have. I want to know what I have to do to get to a certain place as efficiently as I can. So a budget needs to be a written plan that you can reference, and all we're going to do is look at your income and expenses. I had one guy one day come in, and it was about a couple months ago. He had it on a piece of notebook paper. And it worked for him. A budget doesn't need to be complex. We don't need all sorts of software and programs. Keep it simple. Just keep it simple so you don't get overwhelmed. All right. Why do we need a budget? Get this. Okay. Why do we need a budget? It's kind of a way that we get ourselves organized and how we figure out what we're spending our money on. I have almost everyone I start working with is, including myself when I did this, it's where does all the money go? And I don't care whether you're making $5,000 or $5 million or $20 million a year. I have a person that one of my early clients makes $600,000-800,000 a year. He spends right up to every dime that he has, to the point that he looks forward to getting a tax refund to pay off his credit cards. It drove me nuts. Personally, it drove me nuts because I'll go into the reason, because he's paying 15% on his credit cards instead of paying himself 15%. And he was giving by getting an exorbitantly large refund from the IRS. He was in essence giving an 18-month almost interest-free loan of his money to the government while he was incurring 15% or more on credit card debt. So we'll go into those type of illustrations in a few minutes. But what a budget simply is just a way to figure out how you're going to spend your money and how do you spend your money. So what I find is going through the exercise also allows us to kind of look at our spending and say, is this nice or is this necessary? So how do you get, the typical example is people, if you stream media for your TV or movies, I find that people just don't have one streaming service. They'll have 5 and sometimes more. And the question comes up is, why? What do you need them for? What do you want them for? How often do you need them? So, but also what a budget's meant to do is bring some stability, some knowledge and stability to your financial life, so you can take control, get empowered, whatever buzzwords you want to use, but it's not difficult. All you're doing is looking at it and taking control of saying, gee, I'm budgeted $3,000 a month this month. I spent $2,500. Why? It's giving you the power to be able to control your financial future and understand and take charge of your finances. But I also use a budget to form what I call a foundational item, is my cash reserve. That maybe 3 months of expenses, that the first month is going into the, the bills going out in 2 weeks. The next are going to be a backup to that. And, and then the third month is really the security money that fills in if you have it. Oh my goodness, where did that come from? Moment. I came home one day and I'm saying, gee, the rain, why do I have water in my basement? I traced it back to my boiler, had a crack, and all of a sudden I needed a new boiler and it's $6,000. I didn't have to go into credit card debt. What I had is I had an emergency fund, and you can call it, I call it a cash reserve. It goes by emergency fund, rainy day fund, but I had enough cash where I didn't have to go into debt to be able to and pay for this very large expense. So a cash reserve, and we'll go into this a little more later, is kind of the next step once you know your budget, because you can build some buffer around your finances in your life so you don't have to go into debt, or at least you can control your debt. So, and also what a budget does, it helps you gain not only confidence, but it gives you the control. So you feel like you're controlling your destiny. Someone else isn't, like a credit card company or the insurance companies. So, but also having control over your finances allows you to kind of look longer term, not just, oh my goodness, I got to pay this bill now. And I got to, instead of putting out today's forest fires, you're looking down the road, not only to what you want to accomplish, commonly known as goals, but what you're doing is putting the fun stuff in there, because life is meant to be an experience, and mostly positive experiences, hopefully. So, you got to put the fun stuff into your budget. Every one of my clients puts at minimum a 2-week vacation into every budget. Because how do you do well at work if you're dragging and you're just exhausted all the time? So you got to take time away. And I don't care if you have a family, you do your family time, you do whatever vacations you want, and maybe a 2-week vacation along with maybe 2 long weekends during a year allows you to balance out that personal time with work time. And then it also allows you to recharge, to meet all the challenges. Because if your life is like mine, I own my own business. I work a lot of hours. Ever since I came into this field, I started my first job in this field when I was going my first 5 years. We were 12 hours a day, 5 days a week. And on Saturday, we were 5 hours. And then we were allowed, if we were done, allowed to go home. That's the type of schedule I got into. But I came out of an industry, healthcare industry, where I was used to working 10-hour days. But anyway, but the budget allows you to get control of it and put in the budget the good stuff, the incentives and the rewards for doing a good job. So, I just saw a typo down there. Helps you, last one is helps you plan for your expenses and pay your bills, not builds. We're not building buildings here, your bills on time, which is very critical to building your credit history. And believe it or not, your credit history is very much attached to how you run your finances. And you say, oh, I'm not buying anything, I'm not buying a car. Well, let me tell you, some landlords will check your credit history. A car, if you're going out to buy anything big or put furniture on time, they check your credit history. Your car, if you're taking out a loan or a lease, they check your credit history. I mean, there are so many people that do check, and this, by using a budget wisely and checking it and using it as a guide for the year, allows you to build your credit history and get you on a little firmer ground. So I've had people that come high 80s, low 600s, and we put them up close to 800 within a couple of years, just by setting up a standard path for them to go on, which they built. I'm not the one sitting there and saying, well, you've got to live here. A good financial person, and this is why I look at a financial advisor, if they are not giving you advice and helping you, then they're not an advisor. They're salespeople. Sorry to say that, I'll probably get pushback on that, but I believe a financial advisor is supposed to provide advice. So my clients will sit there and we'll talk about credit card debt. We'll look at the credit card. Gee, can we roll this into something, give you a breathing room for 18 months without interest? Because if you have $1,000, let's say $1,000 and you're paying 15% on it, you're paying $150 a year to start in interest before you start paying down principal, which means the higher the balance, the more you're paying just in interest. Stop paying people. I've seen the average interest rate I've seen is on the low side, 10%, high side, 36, 37. So for $10,000 of having, yeah, I see someone shaking their head. I see a number of people shaking their head. You'd be surprised. And I can tell you the credit cards you just tell me the interest rate and I could probably tell the credit card that you've got. There are credit cards that if you miss one payment, they will jump you to 30% in a heartbeat. And why are you paying someone 15 to 30% when you should be, aren't you worth it? You should take that a thought pattern as, I'm worth that. I want to pay myself 15%. If you've got $1,000 and you wanted, or $2,000 in credit card debt and you're paying them 15%, that's $300. Think of what you could do with the $300 or more. All right. So a budget, every one of my clients does it. Every business owner I deal with does a budget, and they're not complex. Keep them simple. Put in the good stuff. All right. Why do budgets fail? Because many budgets are not written down, and people don't reference them. And if they're not written, they're wish lists. Oh, on New Year's Eve, I said, I'm going to do this. I'm going to hit the gym. I'm not. And how many there's more gym memberships sold in January. But if you go by April, May, how many of those people are still in the gym? I'm one of them. That isn't in there anymore, but write it down somewhere, reference it, make sure that, I always think a budget is like, if you were I'm in New York, so if I'm driving to Florida, do you think I'm going to look at a map or something to figure out where I'm going to stop, where I'm going to usually try to go? I know my car gets X mileage, and if I have a problem, who do I know that can stop? It's just a roadmap. Use it as a roadmap. Use it as a tool. It's not to consume your life, but it's meant to give you a path forward that helps you get where you want to go. It really, if you want to get rid of debt, whether it's student loans or credit cards or pay off the mortgage, you want to pay off your 30-year mortgage, I can give you 2 tricks today. You got a 30-year mortgage, you make one extra payment a year. And at the end of the year, you can knock that 30-year mortgage off to 23 years and 6 months or so. One extra payment. You want to now, if you make that same extra payment at the beginning of the year, you knock that 30-year mortgage down to 22 years and about 8 months, give or take. There are simple tricks that you can learn that, hey, how would you like to get rid of your mortgage 8 years earlier? And you can do this with credit cards. You can do this with student loans. It's just knowing how. So going back to why they fail, first of all, they're not written down. So you forget about it. Well, you know, end of month, I don't know. I don't remember where I put it. Write it down. If it's important, you're going to have it written down somewhere. And I don't care whether you put it on your phone, your computer, or you're a paper person, put it somewhere, but look at it every once in a while. When you write out those, you know, the credit cards or the pay the mortgage, are you on target? And was it an expected expense? But the biggest reason I see people don't succeed in the budget, it's not realistic. I'm going to pay off my $30,000 worth of credit card bills in a year. Well, so you're going to write out a check for $2,500 plus interest every month. Maybe that's realistic, maybe it's not. But it's got to be realistic. You can't, you know, you know how much income, or when you figure out how much income you've got coming in, then you got to figure out how to make all that stuff fit into that box of income. And then some of the income has to go towards today, somewhere down, you know, a year from now. And then if you're thinking, you're probably not thinking, but retirement, which can be, you know, if you're in your 20s, you're talking something 40 years, potentially 40 years away. And I don't know whether I can't see any, how old people are here, but I'll give you an illustration, just simple compounding. If you are in a job, you contribute, let's say you're 25, you want to retire at 67, 43 years, right? 48, sorry, 43, so you'll retire at 68. So let's say you got 43 years. If you put $5,000 away, you get 8% in the market. You know how much you'll have? Just about 1.65 million. You take 10 years off that, you're making less than half of that because of the compounding effect. So in your budget, if you're working for a company and they have, oh, I will start contributing later, don't wait till later, because you're missing out on all those compounding. And a term they say, and I call it time value of money. What is compounding? Well, if I have $1 and I get 8% return this year, what am I dealing with next December 31st? I'm dealing with $1.08. Now I get a compound of an 8%. Now I'm dealing with the $1.12 return. So that builds up over time. And time is your greatest friend or your greatest enemy. I see people that'll say, well, I'll start contributing to retirement money, you know, after I get married, after I have a house, after the kids get out of school, after this, after that. And all of a sudden they're in the late 50s. And getting the money to do something becomes so much more difficult. And if the company that you're working for gives you a 3% match, do at least the minimum. But anyway, budgets have to be realistic. You got to know what you've got, but you have to put the realistic. If it's debt, you got to figure out how do you balance it out. But if you want to go, hey, I've got enough money that I want to take a vacation and I want to go to a warm spot. Gee, why would I do that? Because I live in New York and it's just so much fun to be in New York in January and February. It's dark, it's dreary. The main color up here is brown and gray. That's winter in New York. And if you get snow, then you become a high hurdler trying to get across the snowbanks. And if I see smiling, anybody in New York knows that the plows and everybody plows up to the sidewalks, but getting across the sidewalk, you got these big moats of water and icebergs in there. So if you're realistic about what you want, I'm going to go to, Europe, and I want to travel through, from down in Italy, and I want to wind up in somewhere Finland. I don't know. And I want to do all these things, and I want to spend $10,000 on it. I may not say that's for this year, but I may say, okay, let me save for that over 2 or 3 years. And that put it in a bucket, pay off the mortgage or debt bucket, keep things manageable. And I have another one of my dumb stories I tell is 2 sharks meet in the middle of the ocean over this whale. And the less experienced shark says, how are we going to eat this big whale? And the more experienced shark says, 1 bite at a time. Every problem, nobody conquers Mount Everest unless they take their first step. Just take 1 bite at a time on these problems. So you create a budget and you don't follow it. So there's always a reason to fail. And there's always a reason not to. What you need to do is look at yourselves and say, how can I? The difference between a person who's successful and a person who fails is everybody falls down. The successful person just gets up quicker and they say, how can I achieve? That's the difference between getting a positive out of and achieving things. All right, so we're not going to fail. We may blow the budget out 1 month, but we will put in rewards and get back on track and put those rewards in there. And it can be something as simple as, hey, I'm going to go out and get an ice cream, get an extra latte foamy thing with peppermint and all those things at Starbucks. I hate to tell you how much I spend in Starbucks. It's become a national pastime and a significant part of my budget on a monthly basis. I'm always drinking coffee now. Hard to believe 10 years ago, I didn't even drink the stuff. But why do they fail? Let's make a reason. How do we succeed? Let's look at the world in a positive thing. So what's a budget? It really is something very simple. All it is income or money that people pay you or that you collect or someone gives you and an expenses. So all the money going out. So all you're doing is really very simply figuring out what's coming in. And if you work at an employer and they give you a W-2, so you're an employee, or if you're a freelancer, you're a 1099, or you're divorced and get alimony, or you have to pay alimony, but your alimony, but your investment dividends, your interest on savings accounts, that's all income. Some of it's taxable, some may not be taxable. But that's what your first thing to do is figure out, what do you have coming in? How much do you expect to make? And it's easy if you've got a steady job and you've been there a while, but it doesn't matter whether you're, person working at a discount store on an hourly basis or a full-time employee or a vice president of something. It's how much money is coming in do you expect? And if you don't get it, then what you do is, if you're a freelancer, it's much more difficult because you may have erratic income. I worked really hard, or I had a lot of projects and I didn't come in this month, but it comes in next month. So you're just making a best guess. All a budget is a best guess. That's all it is. But your W-2s, your 1099s, and all the other things is income. And if you have a side hustle, you sell things on eBay, that's there. I mean, I know some people, I've got clients that live and make a very good living off of selling stuff on eBay. And I help them set up some of his budget because he also works really hard, but he likes to take time off and because he's worked all his life. He's been working since he was 14. And what I did is I introduced money into his budget so he could go down to, from New York down to North Carolina, or go out on his boat and not have guilt that he can't go out and enjoy his boat. But expenses, fancy term, what is an expense? Just, it's money that you're going to pay someone to do something. Your mortgage, your rent, your food bills, your gas, your maintenance, insurance. Don't forget about insurance. And that doesn't mean just, car insurance, because there's so many different insurances, and insurances in my life are very significant. I've got homeowners insurance, I've got car insurance, I've got renters insurance, I've got my business insurance, I got errors and omissions insurance. I spend a fortune on insurance. You got to make, and then health insurance. I've got co-pays, which are just money that I have to pay every time I see the doctor. But I also have deductibles. So that's how much I have to spend out of pocket before my insurance kicks in. So if you've got children or you've got a young child, think of how much you spend every time, or did spend every time that newborn had to go to the doctor. It can be expensive. But loans, student loans, home equity lines, are they fixed loans? Are they variable loans? Are they credit card loans? Entertainment, are you going out? If you're going out, the average cost is X amount of dollars. Gifts, are you a generous person, or do you, there was time where someone was always getting married, someone was always having a child, and it's like fortune that, and then holiday gifts because of my family and their kids. And it's like, oh my God, it became overwhelming. And, I would say I'd spend X, and I spent 3 times that much. But also look at your subscriptions. I do a lot of trade journals, but I also do, your streaming. I have a ton of business subscriptions because I can't just buy Microsoft anymore. I have to pay for it on a monthly basis, or I have to pay for Adobe. It's a great game for them, but it's very expensive for me. And put your vacation in there. You say, okay, after you look at your income and your expenses, you find out something called discretionary, what's left over at the end of the month, and use that to fund some of the vacation, but put vacation in there. And then all of a sudden you say, okay, I'm going to Florida. I'm going to budget $1,500. And I'm going to recharge. I come back. I've got all these bills of $1,500 or so on the credit card. The bill comes in. I get all the miles, but I pay off the bill. Who wins on that? I pre-funded, and basically I'm pre-funding my expenses. Okay, any questions on that? What goes in a budget? Very simple, income and expenses. If you got questions, please go. Now, what I did is I pulled up a budget, and I'll show you where I got this. This is Consumer Finance Bureau. And they have an interactive one. I'm not a big fan of it because they leave some significant things off it. But it basically, you know what year it is. It's 2023. So income, look at where are you getting the money, all the way down to, you're collecting, or your kids or somebody's collecting bottles. And, I go to Manhattan, and it's amazing. On recycling day, there are people that claim territories in front of a building. Think of a 20, 30, 40, 50 story building. There are people out there with 50-gallon trash bags collecting these bottles, not so much the bottles, but all these cans and plastic bottles. They're pulling in $200, $300, $400 a week just picking up bottles. So there's always a way to make money if you want. But other than that, so when you look at income, your paychecks, this is right off the the Consumer Finance Protection Board, consumer.gov, which I'll give you that email address in a few minutes. It's interactive. And this is what a budget looks like. Don't make it elaborate. You don't need an Excel spreadsheet. You don't need, a separate software. Just keep it simple. Write down on a monthly basis what it is. Now, it can be tricky if you pay for car insurance on quarterly or semi-annually, or your homeowner's insurance on an annual basis. Or if you live in the Northeast, you get, heating oil. I get 3 deliveries a year. I mean, they're big chunks of money every time, but I got a plan for that. But in July, I'm not getting heating oil. I get it usually October, November, somewhere January, February, and then one last one that holds me to the next year. But your expenses, your rent, your renter mortgage, renter's insurance. And, I have an apartment in New York City in Manhattan. The bottom line is, it's not what you do in your apartment. It's what all those people above you and below you and on their hall do. There's always somebody who's, sets something on fire on their stove and fills the whole floor with smoke. We had an older person who was going into Alzheimer's. I tell you, I got to be on a first name basis with the fire department, and they were not happy. They were starting to fine $1,000 to $5,000 because this building didn't do something with this person who kept burning up pots. But, I came home one day and I walk in the bathroom and the whole ceiling is down. The water is pouring down from above. A pipe let go. So it's not what you do. And sometimes renter's insurance can be $150 to $250 a year. It protects you, it protects your stuff. My niece was in college and they took a place off campus and they had a fire, lost all her stuff. No insurance. The landlord said, that's your problem. The good old boys in that town were not going to reimburse some student who was leaving. So rent, utilities, electricity and gas and phones, most people don't have, or if you have a landline versus a cell phone, but do you really need a whole lot of phones if you're not using them? Groceries is just there. I mean, I used to buy oatmeal. I'm a big oatmeal person. I used to go to Costco, buy it. It was $8 box. It's now 14. That's, you go buy it. Has anybody looked at what the cost of eggs are? Anybody like eggs? I mean, to the point, I don't eat eggs anymore. They've gone from, if you wanted to, Walmart used to have them for like $1.25, $1.50 for a dozen eggs. The 18 carton of eggs was like $8 now versus it was about $2. And that's not going to come down soon. So how do you, these are the critical things like groceries and the basics that you have to have. How do you adjust your budget? So if your budget is talking about your grocery shopping and you've allocated $200 a week, but you're really spending $400 or more, that means somewhere else you have to come down. So understanding this early in the season or early in the year, when you know that this problem of groceries or some of the other costs, or if you're doing a renovation, the price of lumber was astronomical. I did a renovation of my house. I was planning on X number of dollars. The guy comes in and says, for a sheet of plywood, it's $80 a pop. $80, and I had to redo my roof. The price of a bundle of shingles had doubled, and it peaked on that summer, of course, the month that I did my roof. But the bottom line is, how did I, it came up close to 30% more for the job to be done just on my roof. My grocery bill and the bills I'm dealing with clients, if you're eating the chicken or the meat or the fish, it's just somehow you got to be, this is where the realistic part of the budget comes in. You can't control all these companies. At least gas has come down, but how do you balance out these higher costs? And that's where you got to say, well, you can't lower your rent or your mortgage unless you move. So those are kind of fixed. So those we're going to get down into what we call the discretionary items. So these top items are really the fixed areas. And if you're saying, well, I'll take it out of the maintenance and I commute by car. I got into an altercation with a boss once, and the guy said, well, why didn't you take $1,000 and put it in an investment? I said, the guy drives 20 miles each way to work. He's got an older car and he is a low income person and he's got no savings. That's his savings. I told the guy to go back, put it in his bank account and start putting $25 more into the bank account every paycheck, because his car is older. It was 10 years old. You got to prepare. The realistic part of it is you got to put the money where you think you're going to need it and have it there, or else this guy to go into debt, to credit card debt, would have been devastating. My worst case of credit card debt, I saw a person made $115,000 a year and had $100,000 credit card debt. They were paying $30,000 a year in interest, $2,500 a month. And they came in and asked me, how do I put money aside for my child for college? It was not a pleasant discussion on either side of the table. All right, so, put the car maintenance. The maintenance is, I don't know about you, but I drive a car. Thankfully, most of the time I drive to a train station, but cars, every time I have a car bill, somehow the magic number is $500 to $600, usually $600. I don't know what it is. Oh, you need a widget. That's $600. Oh, I need a new set of tires. Guess what? $600. Oh, you need an extensive one. That one's $1,200. I feel like I'm the only person doing the metric system in an analog world some days. But these are the expenses. So you put them all down. And sometimes you got to take a number of weeks or months to kind of figure out all those little things when they come in. Now, medicine, I don't go to the doctor, but somehow in the last couple of years, I've had eye infection. A 5 milliliter bottle of antibiotic for an eye infection was $85. Guess what? Not covered by insurance. So you got to look at, when you're dealing with health expenses, what are you paying for the health insurance? What do you expect to pay for copays, deductibles? Deductibles, again, are just the amount of money that you expect that you have to lay out of your pocket before the insurance kicks in. So these are, it takes some thought to come up to it. Did I expect to have to, have a couple of visits to the eye doctor? I mean, the doctors, once they get you, you get in their system and it's like you get referred to different people. Oh, I don't like this. Maybe I should refer you over here. And the bills just add up quickly. And I've got to make sure that I have enough allocation there. So expenses, health expenses, it's doctor's visits, your copays, your all the other things. And you've got to run around. So if you're taking care of a parent, friend, I did a lot of, during the pandemic, I did a huge amount of shopping for neighbors, but all of a sudden my mileage goes from like 20 miles a week to 50. More wear and tear. Childcare, big number. Prices are going up, but you look at childcare, money sent to the family. A lot of people send money to a relative, tough times, and my thought on that is great to be generous, but you got to keep yourself above water, because if people are depending on you and you're underwater, what good is it for two people to kind of go under? Laundry, yes, some people send a lot out to dry cleaning. Thankfully, a lot of people work from home, so that's not there. Now, donations. Are you charitably inclined? Do you throw $10 in the plate? Do you, whatever religion you are, do you give to the religious organizations? Do you give to those Girl Scouts or the Boy Scouts or, the American Cares, whatever center, whatever. There's, to me, people who are generous, it's a way of life and it's a value proposition, but you include those gifts in there. If you're lower income and you've got to pay for banking, or you just pay for banking, they hit you for fees on ATMs or order checking. Don't forget about the little things. I used to say my lunch, I remember when I used to pay $5 for lunch, then all of a sudden it went up to $8. Now, if I'm in the city, it's easily $20 a person. I buy it for the office, I'm talking $40 to $60. I don't know why. It's just a magic number.
Sure, Peter, I can second that.
Oh.
Yeah, so I just wanted to jump in. We have about 10 minutes left. So I just wanted to jump in, Peter, and see.
Well, I'm going to go through the next couple slides very quickly. Different budget apps we can do. Mint has it. I'm going to put up a couple things or give them to Tracy, that is physical pages, which you can download as documents if you want a good budget, make a budget, consumer. These are all free apps for the most part. And if you have questions, you can always answer. So do we have questions, Tracy? Uh-oh, I lost you.
I'm muted. Sorry. You put that into your budget and start charging people for how many times you have to say you're muted. Okay, so going back, we had a question regarding credit cards. Would it be better to roll over or to take your credit card balance and put it on a credit card with 0% interest for a certain amount of times to try to pay it down? Or would it be better to take a loan out with a 3 to 5% interest rate?
That really, you got to work the numbers. But the first thing I deal with when I see credit card debt is you have to deal with the problem. Why is the credit card debt there? Most of the people I see that have it, they spend more than they have coming in. Now, sometimes it's necessary, but what they do is they'll go out, they'll take a loan, they'll cash in a savings, and I've seen the worst move is they'll take out of the retirement. You really don't want to do it. But the first thing you got to do is address why you have that debt. And if you don't correct the reason and you pay off the debt or you get a loan, all you're going to do within a year or 2 years is now have another big balance and you have the same problem. So you got to look at and work the numbers with someone. There are a number of free people that can do it. You get on a call with Savvy Ladies on the one of the financial people or the debt counselors that they have for pro bono, or you talk to your financial person, and you got to address the underlying thing. You got to understand, how do you stop the bleeding? It's also, very similar to if you find yourself in a hole, the first thing is stop digging. And if you find that you can't address the underlying reason and keep going to the credit cards, all you're going to do is get in worse and worse shape. To take out a loan, or do you address the credit card companies? Sometimes call the credit card companies if you can control them and say, hey, I want to do this. If you can roll it over to a 0 interest rate for, let's say, 18 months, what I do is I help people figure out how to pay back the balance within 12 months, giving myself some leeway to, if they go over or miss or have a problem, they can go over and still 0%. But the biggest problem I see is people who'll roll over or take out a loan, and all of a sudden they never address the underlying problem, and all they do within a year is they double the balance.
That's it in a nutshell. Get to that underlying problem, understand your spending, understand your behavior. There's ways to, really comb through your budget and see your spending patterns. We did touch on Starbucks. Guilty, but I cut it out and I'm making better coffee at home. So maybe I'll open a coffee shop, but I digress. Yeah, so
And
definitely look at that and definitely comb through your budgets for those subscriptions. They can be racking up lots of money that you aren't even realizing. And the other thing I saw in the chat, the frequency with some frequency was using a service to help you budget. There are lots of services. There's mint.com. There are all those services. Some are free, some are paid. You don't need to pay somebody to do your budget. You can do it. Just empower yourself with a little bit of knowledge. We put the link to the Savvy Ladies budget worksheet. We put the link to the consumer.gov, as Peter mentioned. You can reach out to Peter for other information. You can come to Savvy Ladies helpline, which the link is also in the chat. And we're happy to help you. You don't have to spend money to actually budget, because then you'd be adding that in your budget. So I think that might be a little counterintuitive, but if that works for you and you have the means, go for it. Looks like we have a hand raised by Paris. Paris, do you want to unmute yourself?
Hi, how are you? My name is Paris. Everything's been great so far. All the information is just a reminder. As a matter of fact, instead of going out for lunch, I decided to go in my refrigerator and get my salad and what I had in there because I was ready to spend. But thank you for the encouragement and the motivation. But what I did was, and I think the one thing you encouraged me for today is, I just want to know, I kind of fell off, and it was only because I did well writing. And when you say budget writing, I wrote down everything I did in that day, and that became to be a lot, I guess, on the second month. First, it looked like, oh, I get to see it, where it's all going. And I realized it was food or eating out. To get back on track, like you say, I got to dig myself out. And I think my mess up, what I failed to do was I did it right before Christmas. And then boom, Christmas came and I didn't spend a lot, but it was like, oh, this wasn't in my budget. So I think getting back in the groove of things is kind of like hard for me now, like just to, all right, go back to where you were in September and start replanning and refocusing and starting the budget again. That's, to me, was like kind of difficult, because it's like, it's almost like, did I fail it, or did I just not start it at the right time, or what did I not do correctly? Probably not realize it was almost Christmas and spend more money than I needed to. So how do you get back on budget after you get yourself out of the hole, get back on budget, just start what I did before if it worked, and that's it?
Yes, Paris, the answer is there's two parts of that question, which
Okay.
the first is you don't fail, you went off the rails a little bit. Failure is very negative, and you got to remember, treat yourself nicely. Don't yell at yourself and put yourself down and, oh, I'm so stupid. I'm sorry, I do that all the time. How can I be this stupid? You're human, you make mistakes, things happen. What you need to do is say, okay, we had an issue this month, we need to refocus. And focus is kind of my word for this year, is that focus and finish. This is my buzzword for this year: focus and finish. Focus on the issue. You may fall down, you may not, but just focus on it and just look at it on occasion, at least on a monthly basis, unless you know that you're doing fine. And that's where writing it down, focusing on the issue, and then, you had an issue, you had Christmas come, you learn something, learn from the mistakes. Don't beat yourself up about it. There's enough people that'll do that for you. There's always, everyone is willing to help you beat yourself up, but what you need to do is be good to yourself and say, had an issue, it happened, I'm going to learn from it, I'm going to correct that mistake, and I'm going to move on. That's what you really need to do, is be positive on, I felt, I don't need my ex-wife to tell me of all my mistakes. I mean, I never met a person that all those years, I never made one good, really, let's not go there. But, be good to yourself, say, okay, it didn't work. Let me get back on track. It's, hey, I made a wrong turn in the car. What are you going to do? Give up? No, you're going to figure out where you are, get back on track and take that car where you want to go. It's just getting back on track.
That's what we need to do.
Thank you.
But let's back that up one step backwards is we need to start. So start where you are. It is fine. Start today, January 25th. You're starting your budget. You're going to follow it. If you fall off on February 13th, get back up and start again. It's not a race. It's your financial journey. It's what you need. Every woman needs a roadmap. Every man, everybody needs a roadmap. And this is the large piece of your roadmap that you really need to follow. Again, I can't thank Peter enough for his time, and the rest of you. Went over a little bit. If you have any questions, please come to the helpline. My information, I'll put my email again in the chat. If you have any questions, you can come to me and I can direct you to a person that can answer them. But thank you so much for your time, and we wish you all of the best on this budgeting journey. We are all there with you. So whatever you need, please just reach out. And Peter, thank you. Any closing words to close us out?
I think with the budgeting, just make it fun and put the good stuff, put the rewards in. If I do something right and I work hard and I do this and I hit my goals, do something nice for yourself. And it could be something as simple, going out and have that cup of coffee rather than, dragging one of those steel containers around all the time. But what do you want to accomplish? The biggest way you can accomplish your goals is to kind of visualize it, focus on it, and execute a plan to get there. And a budget is just, don't overcomplicate it, just start it. Just write it down and pursue it. Just kind of move forward, focus and finish. Thank you very much for having me, Tracy. And if anybody wants to send questions through and didn't get to some of the questions, I have a ton of questions that came in and I tried to answer some of them in the conversation, but I know I didn't hit them. And just plan, just put the good stuff in there. And the last thing I'll say is, I can't stress this enough. I run out of money long before I run out of ideas, which makes me prioritize what's nice, what's necessary. My necessary items get taken care of first, and what's nice, I fit in as I can.
Wonderful. And we did have some kind of some debt management type questions in the chat. I just wanted to mention that we are having our Savvy session on understanding debt on February 1st at 1 p.m. So we're all about rebooting and understanding and learning for this first quarter of the year. So please join us for that. And we thank you for your time and enjoy the rest of your day.